Hi, my name is Angelina Carmichael, and today I will be showing you how to find our contribution margin, our variable cost of goods sold as a percent of sales, our variable selling expense as a percent of sales, and lastly, how to calculate our contribution margin ratio. Our contribution margin is a measurement of the ability of a company to cover variable costs with revenue. Our variable cost of goods sold as a percent of sales compares costs that fluctuate depending on production levels to the revenues made on those products. Our variable selling expense as a percent of sales measures how efficiently your product and services sales lead to gross profit and your bottom line profit. And our variable selling expense is pretty much what your salesman is selling to promote your product and bring more attention to it. And this varies from dinners with people who want to invest in your company, or the expenses of promoting mail out to new possible customers. Those are all your variable selling expenses. And lastly, our contribution margin is the percent of sales, service revenues, or selling price that remains after all variable costs and variable expenses have been covered. And this is the most important because it pretty much shows you who's contributing the most to your company. My example is at company AXO Incorporated, we have 3 salespeople who are going for a promotion. Hamilton's total sales are at $610,000. Her variable cost of goods sold are at $200,680, and her variable selling expense is at $109,800. We have Johnson, who has $603,000 with total costs. Her variable cost is at $241,200, and her variable selling expense is at $96,480. Lastly, we have Hanlon, whose total costs are at $588,000. Her variable costs are $305,760, and her variable selling is at $105,084. As you do this problem, I want you to remember the definitions I provided you with, and now we're about to go. The way I like to set up these problems is I put the name, and we put sales, our variable cost of goods sold with and we also put our variable selling expense, just to label so that we don't get lost. And at this point, we take Hamilton's total sales and put it over here. We take her variable cost of goods sold and put it right here. And we take her variable selling expense and we put it right underneath. Okay. At this point, we're going to add these together to calculate our gross profit. And that equals $378,200. At this point, to calculate our contribution margin, we subtract this number from our sales cost, and that gives us a total of $231,800. And at this point, you would just fill that in right there. Now, to calculate the percentage of our variable cost of goods sold, our variable selling expense, and our contribution margin, we will take our variable cost of goods sold and divide that by Hamilton's total sales. After you calculate that, you will see that her variable cost of goods sold percentage is 44%. To calculate her variable selling expense, you'll take her variable selling expense total and again divide that by her total sales. After calculating that, you'll see that her percentage is 18%. And lastly, the most important one, our contribution margin ratio. You take the total that we got from subtracting our gross profit and our sales, and again divide that by her total sales. And that equals 38%. And at this point, you'll just take these numbers and you'll just fill them in at the chart above. That's your percent for variable cost of goods sold, and your percent for variable selling, and your percent for your contribution margin ratio. All right. For both Johnson and Hamlin, I have the answers already provided for you. Johnson had sales of $603,000. Her variable cost of goods sold is at $241,200, and her variable selling is at $96,480. And again, you will just add these to find your gross profit, which equals $337,680, and you would just subtract that from her total sales, and that equals $265,320, and this would be your contribution margin. From there, you would just take your variable cost of goods sold percent to find this. You'll take your variable selling expense over your total sales to get this percentage, and you will also find your contribution margin by taking this number and dividing it by her total sales to get 44%. And as well, I did the same for Hamlin. When reviewing this, you see that Johnson has the most total sales, so she looked like she would be the person for the promotion, but in all actuality, the person with the highest the person with the highest contribution margin ratio is T. Johnson. So after you find all of these percentages, you would just fill them in. And you will realize that it is Miss Johnson who deserves the promotion. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to find all of these, and thank you for watching.